Okay, for our final 12 by 12 layout, we're going to be using these two papers, which is a really nice green polka dot and the pink cardstock with the scalloped edge. And we're going to be scrapping this very large 5 by 7 photo of my daughter Olivia. And the idea for this layout is to do something a little bit more freeform. We've done some very linear layouts, which are great for beginners. This is going to have a little bit more of a freeform look to it. So, to begin with, this is going to be our background. I do prefer to do pattern paper backgrounds for beginners because I have a strong feeling that if you begin by using only cardstock backgrounds, you will be nervous or afraid to take on pattern paper. Don't be nervous and afraid. Start with the pattern paper, mix in cardstock backgrounds when you're ready, but start with the pattern paper. So what we're going to be doing in this particular layout is I've brought in this pink paper. We're going to be using that for some layering. I've got this journaling card that's also in that brilliant green. I have this blue paper and also this floral. We're going to be fussy cutting out some of these florals and talking about fussy cutting, and we're going to arrange them around the photo. So for fussy cutting, I find smaller scissors work better. They allow you to get into the small cuts much easier. This can take some time, and I'll do a little bit with you on video, but it would probably be best to go ahead and pause this and do your own fussy cutting and then come back and we'll start arranging the florals. But I'll do a little bit with you. There's two ideas with fussy cutting. Some people like to fussy cut right at the edge, and when I'm fussy cutting florals, that's my own personal preference. I like to cut right at the edge of the flower. Some people like to leave a little bit of a border, so a little bit of this blue paper showing. Either way is fine. It's your personal preference over what works better for you. I find if I am cutting out just one floral, I'm okay with a border. It's fine. But if I'm grouping several florals together, I find it's better not to have a border because then they cluster together and look like a bouquet instead of like individual floral pieces. So I'm just very carefully cutting around the lines. Now in this case, there's a little gap here. I'm not going to cut that out because it's going to make those blue pieces so thin and unsupported they will break quite easily. So in that case, I am going to leave a little bit in there. Same around those leaves there. There are some little fronds here that are sticking out. I will probably leave a little bit of blue around those stems to give them a little bit more support so that they don't rip too easily when I'm moving them around my page. Now, how many florals you want to cut out is completely up to you. I will probably cut most of these out to arrange around my larger photo. If you choose to do fewer, that's perfectly fine. You could also choose not to cut out these very small ones at the end. If that's too fiddly for you, that's perfectly fine. You'll notice I'm turning the paper and not the scissors when I'm cutting. And the reason for that is it helps you to cut straighter without making too many individual cuts. So the more times you have to pick up your scissors, the less defined your cuts are going to be. This is a great activity to take with you. I will often cut up little florals out of papers like this and put them in a little plastic bag with my tiny fussy cutting scissors and take them with me to doctors or dentist appointments, or if I know I'm going to be waiting for any length of time and not much to do, I'll take it with me and just sit there and fussy cut for a while. Keeps my hands busy and I'm not quite as bored. Because I find even with my phone in my hand, I get bored pretty easily. So here's our floral. Here's one fully fussy cut out. See, I've left a little bit of the blue around the stems to give them a little extra support so that they don't break off easily. But otherwise, I've stuck very close to the edge of the design. So I'm going to cut out the rest of these florals, and then I'll come back and we'll start designing our layout. Okay, so now that I have all my florals cut out, I'm going to go ahead and start matting my photo. Now I want to do something a little bit different this time. I think I want to do a very thin mat to start with, and then we're going to add some crazy textured layers. Because remember, this one is the layout where we're going outside of our comfort zone. So I'm going to very quickly mat this on the blue paper. Okay. I'm just going to put a really thin blue mat around this because it's going to kind of lend itself to the blue in the florals. And the lack of blue on the rest of the page will make our photo pop out. Oftentimes, if I want my photo to really pop, I will ignore one of the colors that is very prominent in the photo so that it does stand out, or I will mat the photo in a color that's not in the photo, and that will cause it to pop as well. So now we've got our first mat on here. I know that I want to use some of this trim on this photo because I think it is so cool. What I'm thinking is to layer this together to create a double fringe and put it somewhere along the photo. Let's see, and just the less you show, the less dramatic it's going to look. So keep that in mind. If you want a more dramatic look, absolutely show more of the fringe. If you're looking for something a little bit more subtle, then you can just kind of line it up in a small way. I think we're going to go just a little bit more subtle. But first, I want to do I think I want to do a little bit of this scallop just on that side of the photo, followed by the fringe. Really give it a really fun texture on this one side of the photo. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and tape this down where I want it. One of the reasons I use double-sided tape is that I find it is one of the most reliable for long-term stickiness, because quite often liquid adhesive on paper, directly on paper, will cause it to bow or to stand up, and I don't necessarily want bubbling happening, but if I use tape runner, it just doesn't seem to stay very long. So while I used to use tape runner, now I just go straight for the double-sided tape, and I have not had that issue since then. Now I could have just cut off a piece here and not used all of this paper if I wanted to, but I really wanted to kind of raise up my photo a little bit, give it a little extra thickness, and that's an easy way to do it. So now I'm going to grab my small scissors and fussy cut out this scallop. And all of this is just going to add some texture and interest and layering to our photo. While we are keeping these layouts fairly simple, I want to make sure that I show you ways to make even simple layouts very interesting to look at. That way, just because you're a beginner doesn't mean that your layouts have to be boring or they have to be super basic. You should be able to have the tools to experiment with your craft and make it your own style. So now we have that ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and layer these beautiful fringe just like this. I think I'm just going to do a little bit of the white and then I'll do a little bit of the pink. So I'm just going to put a strip of adhesive along this one side. And line up my fringe here so that I can get just a little peek of it from behind my photo. Okay, and then I'll just clean that up with my scissors. And then we'll do the same thing with the pink. And that adds a really nice texture without adding a ton of bulk to our photo. And I do want the pink, the nice bright pink, to show. So we're going to line this up just a little bit longer than the white, so it stands out just a little bit behind that beautiful white fringe. So we've got, oh, that is so fun. Alrighty. Okay, pull that aside, and now we've got our florals. So what I'm thinking is to create a diagonal flow with my florals. You notice I've cut even the ones that have straight lines because they're going to be tucked underneath. So I want one here, and I'm going to put one kind of right in here. I think I want it to be slightly above the fringe. Want the fringe to be the background element, not the main element. Okay. I'm going to kind of create a corner of flowers here. Here we go. And again, this fringe is supposed to be in the background. It's supposed to be a textural element. It's not supposed to be the main element on the page. We want our photo to be the main focus. So I'm going to add this floral up at the top. I'm going to have this one kind of coming around the corner, and this floral right here. I think that layers nicely. And that leaves us a little bit of room for titling or journaling or more embellishing. But this great texture is just a little peek. It's just a little peek of that texture. But it looks so much fun, and it just jazzes up the layout just a little bit. And if you wanted to, you could add it over here as well. But I'm just going to keep it on that one side and tape down my florals. tucking them in here under the scallop because I really like that scallop. I definitely want that to show. Okay. I'm going to make sure that my photo goes down in just the right spot. So I'm going to position this first. And then I'll tape down my photo. Not going to put tape on that back side of that fringe because I want it to move freely. If you tape down your fringe too much or too close to the edge, it will get kind of stuck and it won't really have that nice ruffly feel to it. There we go. I'm okay with this leaf kind of going off the top because I can trim it and tuck it in somewhere else. Like over here, there's not a lot of leaves on this side. So I'll just add it to one of these little bunches. That looks good. Alrighty. Just some quick taping to get these beautiful florals down. So now we've created a vertical flow to our layout from the top right to the bottom left, and that is how we're going to continue our embellishing, is in that flow. So to start with, I think I'm going to bring in my alphabets. Let's see. She's kind of looking away from the camera. So I think I'm going to call this, if I have the letters, Daydreamer, maybe? No, I'm out of E's. How about Little Grin? So what I'm thinking is to kind of overlap my photo just a little bit. With Grin. Oh, the adhesive came off of that one. So we'll just add a little glue. N. And I'm going to use the smaller alphas for the word little, kind of a play on the word. I'm just going to put it above the word grin. Really love these little alphas. These are so cute. They're like little pillows. They're so cute. Here we go, little grin. Okay. I don't think this needs a lot more to be finished. Some small bits and pieces for layers, for interest, that would be good. I kind of like this little floral piece because it's different than the floral that's already there. So I feel like it adds a little pop of something different like that. Got some little hearts. We could do a little cluster up here in the middle of our floral. Something like this. That looks pretty cute. We also have this word beautiful that we could put here. Make it a 3-word title. Kind of like that too. Maybe squeeze the word happy in up here. I rather like that. Wonder if we need a frame to add to this cluster. That's that little partial piece of a frame left over from our other layouts. Thought that might be a cool way to kind of group our cluster here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and glue that all down, and then I'll come back with our small embellishments. Okay, I've decided to go ahead and add in just a little bit of journaling, but I don't want my journaling to stand out too much. So I can either do just a little bit of blue here at the bottom. I could do it off to one side. Kind of liking it down here. And I think we're just going to do a little bit of journaling. And then we're going to add in our sequins, our go-to tiny embellishments. So we're just going to pick some up and glue them down where we think they should go. I generally put them around the clusters of embellishments that I've made. Now, we've talked before about the rule of 3, and you may be wondering why I don't have 3 groups of embellishments. And the reason for that is because we're doing this diagonal style. If I did put another embellishment cluster with so much happening, it would have to be over here, and that's totally an option. You could add in just a little tag, you could add in another flower, you can add in something small over here to the right, and that would look fine too. Maybe we'll do that, but you don't have to. The rule of 3 is a guideline and not really a rule. It's just a suggestion, if you will, to think about moving your viewer's eye through your creation. And that is certainly something we want to do, but there's already a lot of movement happening in this layout. So maybe we'll include it, maybe we won't. While I'm sticking these down, I'll think about that. And you can do that. If you're not sure if you want to try something or if you want to add a little bit here, a little bit there. Think about it while you're doing something else. Move on to a different area that you've already made decisions about. Like I knew I was going to put these little sequins around my page for my tiny embellishments. And while I'm doing that, I can think about, do I want to add my journaling in strips underneath down here like I was planning? Or should I bring in a little tag over here to the side? Maybe another little strip of paper underneath, little banner or something. Have to think about it. Bringing in just a little bit more of this black because we have the title here that's black. We've got a couple of smaller black elements, so I do want to make sure that there is a little bit of that high contrast around the page. Just makes it a little bit more interesting. I find that black and white grab your attention when they're in the midst of color. When you have a very bright page, a shot of black in the middle of a bold, bright page, or a pastel page especially, will definitely grab your attention and make you stop and look. Whereas on a darker page, let's say we're doing a lot of fall colors, we got auburns and navies, white is going to explode off the page and grab your attention. So now I've been doing lots of these little bits and pieces around the page. I'm thinking that I'm going to stick with my little word strips over here. But if you would prefer to add in this little label over here, feel free to do that on your page if you want to do something a little different. And that will complete the rule of 3, creating a triangle of embellishments for interest. So I'm going to go ahead and you could add more hearts around if you like. I'm taking a quick break to glue down my word strips so that I can add in my journaling. And I don't want my word strips to be perfectly lined up with each other. I want to offset them a little bit. Again, it guides your eye and creates movement on the page. So I'm just going to add that right there. Add my journaling and probably a few more sequins, and then we'll call this done. So all I'm writing about here is Olivia's little grin. Okay, and I'm just saying Olivia has a secret smile. That shows up unexpectedly. And then this was from the year, let's see, this would have been 2014. So putting the year and then adding a few more sequins, and we'll call this done. I like to just kind of pop my sequins around my flowers just for a little bit of something, just to jazz them up a little bit. So that's all I'm gonna do is just add in little pops of sequins around the little flowers. And one more, I'm gonna put a gold one up here. And those tiny little details really finish off the page, really give it a completed look, and that's it. That is our 4th layout done. Our next video will be on a pocket page and the last video on Traveler's Notebook. Let's get started.